I used to think my family's tough love was preparing me for the real world. Turns out they were just preparing me to fail. My name is Jake, and I'm the youngest of 4 siblings in what everyone called the successful Morrison family. Dad owns a mid-sized construction company, Mom's a real estate agent, and my 3 older siblings, Emma, Ryan, and Cole, all work in the family businesses. Then there's me, the disappointment, the one who never quite lived up to his potential. Don't get me wrong, I wasn't a complete failure. I graduated college with decent grades, worked various jobs, but nothing ever seemed to stick. Every time I'd get close to something good, something would go wrong. A reference would fall through, a project would get sabotaged, an opportunity would mysteriously disappear. Jake just doesn't have the drive. I'd hear Mom whisper to her friends, "Some kids are just different." The family dinners were the worst. Every Sunday, we'd gather around the table while Emma bragged about her latest real estate deal. Ryan showed off his new truck from the construction bonuses, and Cole talked about his promotion to site manager. And me? I'd sit there, picking at my food, while they'd ask pointed questions about my job search and offer backhanded advice about maybe considering trade school or finding something more realistic. The thing is, I was actually good at what I did. I had a degree in marketing and graphic design, won awards in college, had a portfolio that impressed everyone who saw it. But somehow, nothing ever worked out. "You're just not hungry enough," Dad would say. "Success takes sacrifice, and you're not willing to make it." I started to believe them. Maybe I was the problem. Maybe I really was just not cut out for anything beyond mediocrity. That changed when I got the interview with Davidson Creative Agency, the biggest marketing firm in our city. It was my dream job, the kind of opportunity that could change everything. For the first time in years, my family seemed genuinely excited for me. They offered to help me prepare, gave me advice, even wished me luck. I should have known something was wrong when they started being nice to me. The night before my interview, Emma offered to iron my shirt. I thought it was sweet until I walked into that conference room. I prepared for weeks. Mock interviews, researched the company inside and out, practiced my presentation until I could recite it in my sleep. This was it, my shot at Davidson Creative, the job that would finally prove I wasn't the family failure. The morning of the interview, everything seemed perfect. My shirt looked crisp, my portfolio was organized, and I felt confident for the first time in months. Even Mom made me a special breakfast and Dad gave me an encouraging pat on the back. "You've got this, son," he said with a smile that seemed genuine. I walked into Davidson Creative feeling like I could conquer the world. The receptionist led me to a conference room where 3 executives waited, including Sarah Davidson herself, the founder. "Jake Morrison," she said, standing to shake my hand. "We've heard interesting things about you." That should have been my first warning. I launched into my presentation, explaining my marketing concepts, showing my portfolio pieces. Everything was going perfectly until I noticed their expressions changing. Confused glances, raised eyebrows. One executive actually looked uncomfortable. "I'm sorry," Sarah Davidson interrupted, "but we need to address something. We received some concerning information about your work history." My stomach dropped. "What kind of information?" She slid a printed email across the table. "This came from someone claiming to be your previous supervisor. They detailed several incidents of missed deadlines, unprofessional behavior, and..." She paused, looking embarrassed. "Alleged substance abuse issues." I stared at the email in horror. It was from a generic Gmail account, but it referenced specific projects I'd worked on, specific dates, even internal company details that only someone close to me would know. "This is completely false," I said, my voice shaking. "I've never had substance abuse issues. I can provide real references." "We also received a call yesterday," another executive added, "from someone claiming to be your brother. He expressed concerns about your stability. Said the family was worried about you." The room started spinning. "My brother called you?" "He seemed very concerned. Said you'd been acting erratically, that you'd been let go from your last job for stealing." Sarah Davidson's voice was gentle but firm. "Look, Jake, If you're struggling with personal issues, we understand, but we can't. This is all lies. I stood up, probably too quickly, too desperately. Someone is sabotaging me. The looks they exchanged told me everything. To them, I looked exactly like what the anonymous emails and phone calls had described. Unstable, desperate, potentially dangerous. The interview ended 5 minutes later. They were polite, professional, but I could see the decision in their eyes. I sat in my car afterward, hands shaking, trying to process what had just happened. Someone had systematically destroyed my dream job before I even walked in the door. And only 4 people knew enough about my work history to pull it off. My loving, supportive family. I confronted them at Sunday dinner, and they didn't even try to deny it. "We did it for your own good," Emma said, cutting her roast beef like we were discussing the weather. "You weren't ready for that kind of responsibility. You sabotaged my career." I slammed my fist on the table, making the water glasses jump. "You ruined my life." Ryan shrugged. "You would have screwed it up anyway. You always do. At least this way, you learned the truth about yourself without embarrassing the family name." Cole added, not even looking up from his plate. Mom reached over and patted my hand like I was a child having a tantrum. "Honey, we know you better than you know yourself. That job would have been too much pressure. You would have had a breakdown. You're happier when you're not trying to reach above your station," Dad said with that same patronizing tone he'd used my entire life. "Some people are meant to be leaders, others are meant to be followers. There's no shame in knowing your place." I looked around the table at these people who were supposed to love me and realized they weren't my family, they were my prison guards. They'd been keeping me trapped in a box labeled failure for so long that they genuinely believed it was for my own good. "You've been doing this my whole life, haven't you?" The pieces started clicking together. Every job I lost, every opportunity that fell through, every time something went wrong, that was you. Emma's smile was cold. "Someone had to protect you from yourself." That night, I went home to my studio apartment, the only place I could afford after years of mysterious career setbacks, and did something I'd never done before. I made a list. Every job I'd lost, every reference that had gone bad, every opportunity that had mysteriously disappeared. When I mapped it all out, the pattern was impossible to ignore. 23 times over 8 years, my family had sabotaged my life. The worst part? They were right about one thing. I had been living down to their expectations. I'd internalized their belief that I was a failure, that I wasn't good enough, that I didn't deserve success. But sitting there in my crappy apartment, staring at the evidence of their systematic destruction of my life, something changed. The shame turned to rage. The self-doubt turned to clarity. They wanted to play games with my career? Fine. I'd learned from the best manipulators in the business. I spent the next 3 days researching everything I could about Morrison Construction and Mom's real estate business. I looked up building permits, safety violations, client complaints, tax records, anything that might be public record. And holy shit, did I find some interesting things. Dad's company had been cutting corners on safety inspections. Mom had been inflating property values for her friends' tax assessments. Ryan had been skimming materials from job sites. Cole had been falsifying timesheets. My perfect, successful family had been breaking laws left and right, secure in the knowledge that little Jake was too stupid and pathetic to ever be a threat. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The war was on, and I was playing to win. Her name was Lisa Chun, and she was the investigative journalist who would become my secret weapon. I'd been digging through public records for 2 weeks when I stumbled across an article about construction safety violations in our city. The reporter had been investigating several companies, including Morrison Construction, but the piece felt incomplete, like she'd hit a wall. I found her contact information and sent a simple email. "I have information about Morrison Construction that might interest you." We met at a coffee shop downtown. Lisa was maybe 30, sharp-eyed, with the kind of intensity that made you want to either trust her completely or run in the opposite direction. When I told her I was James Morrison's son, her eyebrows shot up. "Your father's company has been on my radar for months," she said. "But every time I get close to something, my sources dry up or records mysteriously disappear." That's the Morrison family specialty, I said. Making problems disappear. I started small, sharing the building permit discrepancies I'd found. Lisa's eyes lit up as she cross-referenced them with her own research. Within an hour, we'd identified a pattern of safety violations that had been covered up through strategic donations to city council members. But Lisa wasn't just interested in the construction company. When I mentioned Mom's real estate business, she leaned forward. There's been rumors about property value manipulation in the historic district. Your mother handles a lot of those sales. Over the next month, Lisa and I built an airtight case. She had the investigative skills and media connections. I had the insider knowledge and access to family information. I started photographing documents during Sunday dinners, recording conversations, even getting Ryan to brag about his latest corner-cutting innovations, while I had my phone recording in my pocket. The breakthrough came when I found Dad's second set of books, the real ones, hidden in his home office. Lisa nearly fell off her chair when I showed her the photos. "This is felony tax evasion," she whispered, "and the safety violations could result in criminal charges if anyone was hurt." But Lisa taught me something crucial. Good revenge isn't about destroying people. It's about making them face consequences they thought they'd never have to pay. "We're not just going to ruin them," she said during one of our planning sessions. "We're going to make sure they can't hurt anyone else the way they hurt you." The plan was elegant in its simplicity. Lisa would publish her exposé in the city's major newspaper, detailing the construction safety violations and tax evasion. But the real genius was in the timing. She'd also uncovered that several of Morrison Construction's buildings had safety issues that put people at risk. I also learned that Mom had been manipulating property assessments to help her wealthy friends avoid taxes while overcharging working families. The moral hypocrisy was staggering. "Your family has been gaming the system for years," Lisa explained. "They've been successful because they thought they were untouchable. Small-town corruption at its finest." We spent weeks coordinating with building inspectors, tax investigators, and the district attorney's office. Lisa had connections everywhere, and my evidence was ironclad. The night before everything went public, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years. Genuine confidence. Not the fake bravado I'd worn to family dinners, but real, earned self-assurance. I was about to prove that the family failure was smarter than all of them combined. The article hit the front page on a Tuesday morning, and by noon, my family's empire was collapsing. Construction conspiracy, local company accused of safety violations and tax evasion, ran with photos of 3 Morrison construction buildings that had been condemned overnight. Lisa's investigation was devastating. Detailed evidence of bribery, falsified safety reports, and systematic tax fraud going back 7 years. But the real bombshell was the sidebar article about Mom's real estate schemes. Property value manipulation costs taxpayers millions included a photo of her shaking hands with the mayor at a charity gala, a charity that Lisa had discovered was funneling money back to city officials. I was at work, my new job at a small marketing firm that had hired me after checking my real references when Dad called. "You little bastard," he snarled. "You think you're so smart? You just destroyed your entire family." "No," I said calmly. "I just stopped letting you destroy me." By Wednesday, the building inspector's office had shut down Morrison Construction pending a full investigation. The IRS had frozen Dad's accounts. The State Real Estate Commission had suspended Mom's license. Ryan and Cole were suddenly unemployed, their specialized skills worthless without the family business to protect them. Emma called next, crying, "Jake, please, you have to do something. They're saying Mom might face criminal charges." "Interesting," I said. "When I begged you to stop sabotaging my life, you told me it was for my own good. I guess this is for yours." The most satisfying moment came when I ran into Cole at the grocery store. He looked haggard, wearing a stained shirt instead of his usual designer clothes. "You destroyed us," he said, his voice hollow. 20 years of building this business, and you killed it in one day." "Actually," I corrected, "you destroyed yourselves. I just made sure everyone found out." He stared at me like he was seeing a stranger. "You're not the same person." "No," I agreed. "I'm the person I always could have been if you'd gotten out of my way." The legal fallout was swift. Dad pleaded guilty to tax evasion and got 3 years probation plus massive fines. Mom lost her real estate license permanently and had to pay back hundreds of thousands in fraudulent commissions. Ryan and Cole were charged as accomplices in the construction fraud. But the real victory came 6 months later. I was promoted to senior marketing coordinator at my firm, the same position I'd been unqualified for my entire adult life. Turns out, when people aren't actively sabotaging you, success comes naturally. Lisa's series won a state journalism award. We stayed friends, and she later told me that my case had inspired her to investigate other family corruption schemes. "You didn't just save yourself," she said. "You probably saved other people from getting hurt by those unsafe buildings." The final confrontation came at what should have been our last family dinner. Dad had lost weight, Mom looked 10 years older, and my brothers sat in sullen silence. "Are you happy now?" Emma asked. "You got your revenge. We're all ruined." "I'm not happy you're ruined," I said honestly. "I'm happy I'm free." "Free?" Dad laughed bitterly. "You're still the same failure you always were. One lucky break doesn't change that." I stood up, looked around the table at these broken people who had spent decades convincing me I was worthless, and smiled. "You're right about one thing, Dad. I'm not the same person. I'm better." And for the first time in my life, I walked out of that house without looking back. 3 years later, I'm the marketing director at Davidson Creative, the same company my family destroyed my chances with. Sarah Davidson reached out personally after the corruption story broke. She'd put the pieces together about my sabotaged interview and wanted to make it right. "We should have investigated those anonymous claims more thoroughly," she said during our meeting. "We let your family's lies cloud our judgment." The irony wasn't lost on me. The job I dreamed of was finally mine, but I'd had to destroy my family to get it. People ask if I regret what I did. Here's the truth. I regret that it was necessary. I regret that my family chose greed and control over love and support. But I don't regret stopping them. Dad never fully recovered from the legal troubles. The stress triggered a heart attack 6 months after the sentencing. He survived, but the swagger was gone. Mom works at a discount real estate office now, making a fraction of what she used to earn. Ryan found work as a regular contractor. Cole moved to another state. Emma was the only one who tried to rebuild our relationship. She came to my apartment last year, looking tired and older than her years. "I know what we did was wrong," she said, "but we're still family." "No," I told her. "Family doesn't sabotage each other. Family doesn't systematically destroy someone's life for sport. You were my captors, not my family." She cried, and part of me felt bad. But feeling bad about necessary boundaries is just another form of manipulation they trained me to accept. The real family I found was unexpected. Lisa became one of my closest friends. Sarah Davidson became a mentor who taught me about real leadership. My coworkers became the support system I'd never had. I learned that success isn't about proving you're worthy to people who've already decided you're not. It's about finding people who see your potential and help you reach it. My therapist, yes, I finally got therapy, helped me understand that my family's behavior was textbook narcissistic abuse. They'd needed me to be the failure so they could feel superior. My success threatened their entire identity structure. "You weren't the problem," she explained. "You were the solution to their insecurity. They kept you small so they could feel big." The hardest part wasn't the revenge. It was learning to trust my own judgment again. After decades of being told I was incompetent, it took years to believe in my own abilities. But I did learn. I thrived. I became the person I was always meant to be. Last month, I got engaged to Maria, a woman I met through work who thinks I'm brilliant and funny and worth celebrating. She's never known the failure version of me, only the real me. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd never discovered the truth about my family. Would I have spent my whole life accepting their version of who I was? Would I have died thinking I was genuinely worthless? The thought terrifies me more than any revenge ever could. To anyone reading this whose family makes them feel small, you are not their definition of you. You are not their limitations. You are not their fears. Sometimes the people who claim to love you are actually the ones holding you back. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do is walk away and prove them wrong. Your real family is waiting for you out there. Go find them.
If you made it this far, you're officially part of the drama. Subscribe for more, and tell me in the comments, what would you have done?